Hey everyone, welcome to the Sith Dominion. I am your host, Dr. Dana Martin, and with me on the show today is returning guest, Drama Llama Mama. Hello, Cynthia. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And our other guest, longtime caller, first time, or no,
Long
long
time.
time listener, first time caller, John Ambrose, staff writer over at Geek News Now at .net, and just all over the place. You'll see him on several of our other shows. So, hello, Mr. Ambrose, and welcome to our show.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So, we have a jam packed show. First of all, I appreciate the 20 to 50 views that we're getting on these shows so much, and I will tell you why. Because as long as there's someone watching, they're going to let me continue. So thank you for 10 episodes. Yay. Okay, we're at 10 episodes. We're a fifth of the way on as many episodes as my previous podcast endeavor. So something to stick a pin in and think about. Oh, which you have been on that show multiple times.
Yes, I have.
So we're gonna jump right in, and I'm real excited about the show. Yes, it's our 10th, but also Kylo Ren has become a very polarizing character, and later on in the show, we're gonna really, I think, try to dissect some things about Kylo Ren that I had not given a lot of thought to, and has started to change my perspective on the lad, if you will. Um, Actually, I had said in the outline in all caps, "Hear me out," for for our co-host tonight. Yeah, but let's start with some news. So, some big news coming out of Hollywood, still impacting all of our fandom love for all of our shows and content. John has a article up right now. I have to look at it because I always want to say, that sounds good. The soup of the day, soup du jour. No, force majeure. Tour de force majeure is the name of the article. You want to? I don't want to give it away, but you want to talk some high level about what's going on, man?
Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't know, and I don't want to sound condescending, so if you know it, you know, force majeure is a policy that's worked into almost every contract in Hollywood, unless you have a fantastic lawyer who talks your way out of it when you sign the deal, and pretty much it's like an act of God clause or something like a strike. It allows the studios to suspend and cancel projects that are otherwise costing them money. So in the article, I pretty much hypothesized that the studios want to keep the strike going. Warner Brothers has up to date saved $300 million
What?
with this work stoppage, because they're just canceling projects and they're not paying anybody. And I think the studios are using this as an excuse to cancel projects they didn't want, and to hit the reset button. So I don't think the strike is going to end anytime soon. And I think the studios are just going to keep slashing, just like I talked to you before we went on air. Peacock or NBC, I call them Peacock now because I stream, just canceled with Lorne Michaels of all people, who's a living legend. They suspended a deal with him. So I think the studios are sending a message out because they did tend an offer to the writers that was going to give them their first significant raise in 35 years. And it gave them pretty much everything they were going to ask for, except for the amount of writers assigned to the writers' room. And the writers took an all or nothing stance and walked.
Ooh.
And and they were going to earn up to $11,000 a week. So I think now the studio's taking the kid gloves off and they're saying, okay, if you don't want to come to the table, this is what's going to happen. And it's really unfortunate. There's a lot of people, good workers, good writers that are caught in the crossfire here. And it's just a shame that the bottom line for a lot of these honest people that are striking in solidarity is getting hit.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think it's interesting. Anytime we have these issues where technology really changes, like the landscape in ways that we can't even imagine, and in the way of like pay structure for these writers or for like everything has changed, and you cannot stick with the old ways, right? You got to be able to figure it out, come together and talk about it, figure it out. However, how do you force a come together and figure it out when you just said roughly $300 million that Warner Brothers has saved?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you argue with not letting that go a little longer from a studio's perspective?
Yeah, and it's like, the studios have at this point, people in streaming. This is kind of, I think, why it's a backhanded reason as to why the writers are striking, because there is such a vast library online where it's like, I don't think any normal person really cares about the strike. It's like, oh, show's not going on this year. Okay, I'll just watch all 11 seasons of Cheers.
Yeah.
Until it comes back. So I mean, I don't think it has the effect that it had in the past, where you were stuck with your little box TV, and you didn't have any entertainment. But now there's so much entertainment. I don't think it really resonates as much with the viewer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always wanted to watch Mayor of Kingstown, and now I can. You're exactly right. Like my new show's not coming out. Watch something else.
Yeah,
man. And I think we as the fans and not in the business as is in sorts of that. I mean they have to eat too, right? I mean, like your artists are, period. Whether you're writing, whether you're painting or whatever, like you can't just keep taking, man. You got to be able to sustain your life and sustain your craft and continue to hone your craft and
I kind of touch on that, and yeah, they deserve to be paid what they're worth. But I mean, I'm going to find very little sympathy when I find that you've been offered something that can guarantee you up to $11,000 a week, and we have policies that are going to rise the gas prices in about a week or so. So gas is going to rise. Everything's going to get more expensive. And not to mention, we just had an entire state go on fire and no one really knew about it because this was dominating the news cycle. Like like Hawaii was burning down, and that's kind of a more worthy story. So I'm pretty sure that the guy that's got to choose between, gas and groceries and, the poor Hawaiian family that just lost their house, I don't think they're going to care that someone's not making $11,000 a week. Yeah.
No, that's a great point there. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think this will change the way contracts are written in the future because, as he was saying, it's not as impactful to the consumer anymore when they go on strike. I think you're going to see contracts change with streaming clauses in there in the future so that maybe it will have a bigger impact on the consumer.
And the contracts, that something does, in defense of the writers, something does need to be done because we're still working. They're still working on a residual structure that's based around the 20 to 24 episode TV season. And, you're indentured to the studio, but you write now, seasons are going for as little as 6. What was Moon Knight? 6 episodes?
Yeah.
And, the writers that were assigned that, they're stuck with Disney because there's an exclusivity clause and you're waiting for work. You can't go seek work from another studio or another or sign on to another project. And that worked fine when you were writing for like The Simpsons and you had 25 weeks to figure out what to do.
Sure.
But 6 weeks is a short amount of time. And in the writer's defense, that is that should be a really huge bone of contention.
Agreed. One last bit about that. When I recall other industries in, let's say, airlines, let's say baseball. I think baseball is a good example. You lose fans, and some of those never return. And unfortunately, I think caught in the crossfire are the people who consume. Right, we're the ones that want to see the material and see your art, and we're not going to get to see it.
And that's a fantastic example, because before 1994, Montreal was a top 10 team for attendance. You know, people would go to Montreal to see games. Montrealers loved their Expos, and I think the Expos were on track to, if I'm wrong, I don't have, you know, I follow baseball religiously. I believe the Expos were in first place that year, and they were, you know, a candidate for the World Series. And after that, it was just never the same. They were getting 2,000 people a game, 3,000 people a game, and they ended up in Washington. And you know, that was a shame.
Totally. Well, I appreciate that, Ambrose. And yeah, everyone check out, I think I got did I put the thingy? I don't know. I thought I put a thingy. Oh, just geeknewsnow.net. There you go. Geeknewsnow.net. Check out Force Majeure, Tour de Force Majeure. And still, I hear.
I love the wordplay we're allowed to use here.
It's so fun. Tour de Fire. So, yeah, awesome. So let's start looking at our boy Ben. We're going to move into. I got to change it. So I went through the whole. Thank you, David Furr, at David Furr, for giving us the walkthrough on this software, because I'm a big baby and I was like, I want to use my own software. But I've been using yours. So I was going to push this button. There it is. Ooh, yeah, I know, right? And a scroller at the bottom. So I really need Kat to jump in and say she's impressed with my skills. Ben Solo, man. Where's the truth? I don't think in the three scenes, and we're just gonna jump right into the scene where Luke is going to kill him, or Luke is thinking of striking him down, or Luke is whatever. I think that even the three stories we have on his and whatever we are told the story is, I think there's still something else to it. And I say that because of the absolute sheer slobbering. He wasn't angry, in my opinion. He was hurting when he was saying more, kill, Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's coming off his anger, but in my mind, it's hurt, and it's because of whatever really happened there between them two. I just want to see what y'all's thoughts are about that, just to crack it open right away.
I defer to the lady.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know, I'm not sure if it was in this battle where Luke tells him, but Luke says, hey, if you destroy me, I'm going to be with you forever. I think it was in that, was it in that battle, or was it in another one? But I think up to that point, I think I mentioned this before to you, I had seen Ben as a whiny version of Darth Vader, just another reincarnation of that Anakin, or as an Anakin. And I think in this moment, that's when we first really see the wrestle inside of him. As he's, you know, Luke has just said, hey, I'm sorry I failed you, but I'm here with you for, if you do this, the force is greater than both of us, and I will be a part of you forever. And I think that thought you can see in his eyes as he processes that, as he's considering, is that something I want, or is that something that will just completely destroy me?
Mm-hmm.
I think my main problem with the sequel trilogies is something like this, because where George Lucas was a master with even in the prequel trilogies that were maligned before this came along, where he was a master in storytelling, was telling a story without telling it. And you know, you kind of, he would leave tidbits so you can kind of figure out what's going on. Okay, Darth Vader and Obi-Wan had a rivalry. And in the first movie, it's like, he could possibly be Anakin. He probably is Anakin, but we don't really know yet. And George Lucas was a master in letting you figure it out, but also leaving a trail of breadcrumbs without beating you over the head with the story. The problem the sequel trilogy had is it was so disjointed, and it seemed like there was no communication. It ruined the possibility for this character who had a lot of potential to be a great character. It kind of just ruined him.
Yeah.
And he came off, as Cynthia said, he came off as like a 10-year-old who didn't get the bike he wanted for Christmas. And that fight with him and Luke, and this is why I really don't think Rian Johnson is a good director. I know everybody thinks he's the next Hitchcock because Knives Out made some money or something, but I don't think he's a good director and Dave Furr did not believe me, and I had to send him the video. The fight between him and Luke Skywalker at the end of Last Jedi is a shot-for-shot recreation of the ending of Escape from L.A.
Oh,
No way!
Yes, I will send you the video when we get off
Snake Plissken?
Like Snake Plissken. It is from when Luke walks out of and this guy put a YouTube video together, and it has the Snake Plissken on one side and Luke Skywalker on the other, and it shows Snake Plissken walking out of the flames, Luke walking out of the smoke, the guard putting the gun through Pliskin to see if he's a hologram, Kylo Ren putting the lightsaber through Luke.
Gosh.
It's like 100%.
wow.
Shot for shot recreation of the end. And like I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't even like this movie, and I'm thinking about it, and it's like I've seen this ending somewhere. And my old roommate was like, yeah, dude, that's the ending from Escape from LA.
And that's lost on this generation. They don't know Snake Plissken. I mean, nobody knows. We know that. Whoa, I gotta check that out, man. That's insane.
I'll send you the video when I when we log off of this.
Heck yeah.
But I think it would have helped to give a little bit more mystery to Kylo Ren. Like they told the guy's story in like 10 minutes, and then you're like, okay, I don't care. There's nothing to really figure out. His mask came off like 20 minutes into the movie. It's like, okay, why were you even wearing a mask? like seriously, like like the mask is supposed to be in Star Wars. Masks are mystery. It's like I want to see the guy's face, and there's supposed to be a big reveal. No, he got mad and like took it off and threw it.
Oh yeah, Empire, and you see the, and you're like, oh, that's the back of Anakin's head, and you're freaking out, you know?
Yeah.
10 minutes in.
Yeah. Like you, and he's just like, meh. And like, so like, I just think J.J. Abrams just is not an original writer. He's done some all right projects. I'm not saying he's a complete hack. What I am saying is that he doesn't really have any original ideas. I'm pretty sure when he wakes up in the morning, he has to watch his wife brush her teeth so he knows what to do.
Oh my.
Yeah, and him and Johnson did not communicate, and it led to disjointed characters, and it led to a disjointed string of films, and it just was not. It just ruined the quality.
Well, and back to what you said about George Lucas being a master at that, a lot of people's complaints with the newer Star Wars trilogy was that the dialogue was so pedantic. It was so preschool almost. It was disjointed. The dialogue felt like little kids were saying it. And George Lucas, again, to your point, was able to give enough through the few words they spoke, and he trusted his audience to be smarter than the newer writers and directors did, I think.
Carrie Fisher had said, like, I read the script, no one talks like this, right? And I think that's the quote. No one talks like this. And
Tamara Morrison said it on the set of Book of Boba Fett. He was like, this isn't Boba Fett. And I think, honestly, piggybacking off of what you're saying, though, I think we look back on the past with a shade of excessive rose on our glasses, though, when it comes to dialogue, because George was a master storyteller, but writing dialogue, we've all heard the sand soliloquy.
Oh, yes.
True.
So, I mean, I think George that was his weakness, he could tell the story, but the dialogue,
And maybe we overlooked the dialogue because the story was so good, and it just became more glaring and apparent with these later versions.
Look, I know that I've had folks that have passed away in my family that no one really liked, but then after they were gone, everyone was like, "Oh, they were so wonderful." Oh, come on. So I think it's like that, right? We're romanticizing a little.
The rose-colored glasses are coming out of the thing, but with George, I think he was older and a little bit more stubborn with the prequels. I think with the original trilogy 4 through 6, he actually had like a round table and it was like a creator's room and he'd brainstorm and even like I'm sure even though he doesn't have a credit, like Spielberg came in and he'd be like, "Hey, Steven, what do you think of this?" And they'd have he'd have sessions. And in this one, I think he was just like, "I'm 60 and I just want to get this done. Cut me my check."
Story I want to tell.
Like, I think he was just rushing to get it done, and but I think the fans were also, because I did rewatch the prequels, and they're not as bad as I remember them to be. I think the fans were unnecessarily harsh, especially with some of the characters in the sequel trilogy. Like Jar Jar Binks is like Lando Calrissian compared to some of the characters
pretty much
in the sequel trilogy.
Yes. So one of the cool things I think about Kylo is when we look, yes, the writing, and yes, I think Adam Driver brings something to that character that maybe wasn't. I don't know if it was written or implied or whatnot. And when I have been watching, I was telling Cynthia before the show, I've been watching those sequel trilogy for maybe the last 8 months to a year, just watching them, everyone just watching, trying to understand what I missed, because I feel like while it is kind of disconjointed at places, I think there is something of value there, and I believe I'm not ready to die on the hill yet, but I believe I found it in Kylo Ren, and I will attribute it a lot to what Adam Driver brought for that character all the way around.
Well, what I don't understand about the progression of his character is, and this is what I mean, George Lucas would have filled us in with what actually happened to Luke, because we went from Return of the Jedi, where he's like, "My father, who killed a room full of children, still has good in him. I can save him. I will not strike down my father," to, "Yo, this little bastard's got to go."
Yeah.
So what happened to erase those ideals?
And that's one of the things I believe. I'm glad you stated that, because in the scope of what we would lean on as saying this is evil, this is dark side, whatever. I'm not advocating killing younglings, but I am saying that is there still good in someone if they're doing something for the betterment of what they believe their intent is good.
I mean, if you take out the slaughter of the children, I think Anakin's demands were kind of reasonable. I mean, if you take that whole kerfuffle out.
And I think in that moment he was not in control at all, so if you take that out, that's a moment where he completely lost control. He may have said it was for the betterment of, of his quest, but no, like, he lost control in that moment.
But tiny little obedient Jedi younglings turn into stubborn old, we're going to secretly order assassinations Jedi. And you know what? I was so pissed, and I knew it the whole time. This is what's going to happen. This is what they're going to do. And that's what they did. When they did that, and so I was like, you got to be kidding me.
See, this is why the Jedis needed to have, at least one or two normal people in the room, because that normal dude would have seen Anakin walk in and he would have been like, something's not right, guys. Oh, no. Yep, he drew the saber. Yep. Run. We gotta run. We gotta get out of here. Oh crap! He got me.
But do you think he was thinking as he walked in there what you said, that they were going to grow up to be Jedi, or do you think he was just acting? Because the way he was portrayed, he was not that intelligent to think that far ahead. He was, I feel like he was blind obedience there.
So I believe they did some disservice to the writing in his character there. In other forms of medium, like Clone Wars, he's a brilliant strategist. He's smart, and but they did kind of make him.
No,
but I mean, it there is something to the Force, the dark side, bringing you off balance. And he was a brilliant tactician when he was able to keep things in check. But when Palpatine finally dug in and got him, everything short circuits for him. And you focus on that one thing, and Palpatine's sitting there telling him his wife's going to die unless he saves him, and he's running through and what's a couple kids if my wife gets to live? So.
Well, and that brings us to the legacy piece, which I think is huge in this, that maybe gets a little put to the side. Kylo Ren's motivation, from what we're told, is that he, wants to finish what his grandfather started, right? And that in and of itself is a piece of legacy, right? But his uncle, who, I mean, you got to think he was at the academy, right? So at the academy, sleeping. Like Han and Leia weren't there, and they didn't appear, at least from my understanding, and I haven't read all the comics that are related. They didn't live together. I mean, he was on his own, essentially. So his dad's off being a scum, and his mother's trying to, do the little rebellion thing again. What does he have? And I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, just maybe a little bit of an explanation. All he has is his freaking uncle, man.
But
That's
I mean,
all he has.
But also, like, it's not explained what happened.
Which is what I said earlier. God dang it.
Yeah. No, like I'm just reiterating your point. And
you're
like,
right.
It's not like like I said, where did the ideals get lost? And no one. The thing is, it's kind of like what's her name, Maz Kanata, where she has the lightsaber, and she's like, that's a story for another time. It's like, cool, we're gonna figure out how she got Anakin's lightsaber, and then it's like, you think anyone will notice?
Well, and I see your eyes, and they remind me of someone else, to Finn, and I'm like, who's Finn's dad? Lando. Oh my god!
Lando.
Like, I'm so everyone's
Lando,
freaking out.
Smooth daddy.
They never even said anything.
So, do you think there's enough for a series about what happens to Luke to bring that about, or do you think it's just a throwaway few lines we needed?
I think there's enough for the series, but I desperately want the Skywalker saga to end. There's so much story to tell in Star Wars, and they proved it with Rebels. And I just want the Sky. I mean, we all love the Skywalker saga, but at this point, it's becoming something to fall back on. It's kind of like, we tried this new show and it didn't get any ratings. Panic button. Give him the Skywalker saga. Is there a thing with Luke we could do where he tries to kill his nephew?
That sounds like fun. Yeah, when I pull out the kind of string timeline of him, he doesn't have up, down, up, down, up, down. He has one. It's one big, climax.
And then Kylo or Luke?
Kylo.
Okay.
Luke is like, he's all over the place. He's got so much conflict, whatever. But
still didn't get those power converters.
I know.
Maybe that was what ruined him. Maybe he woke up one day and he was like, God,
go to the dark side for a little while in the graphic novel.
Get those power converters. That little kid. Next thing he says, I'm taking it out on him.
That poor youngling. So, using Kylo Ren as legacy example, we have let's think of what the Kennedys, right? There's legacy there, and people are expect a certain thing. I don't care about their politics, whatever. I'm just saying the legacy piece, right? So Trump's have a legacy piece to them. Hilton's a legacy piece. All these big business owners, what have you. Within that, the next generation start to kind of get screwed up and messed up in the head, and there's all sorts of studies and why these sorts of things happen. But I just want to make it real simple and maybe think about, perhaps,
I don't know, maybe it's
having to live up to.
Sometimes it is the earlier generation. I mean, Ted Kennedy filmed the worst Oldsmobile commercial ever.
And didn't he?
Oldsmobile was like, couldn't you drive like a foreign car or something, Ted? What are you doing to us?
Well, and he also got into trouble with the law too. I mean, he's I think vehicular manslaughter in there too.
Yeah,
goodness gracious. So when we have bits like that, right? We have, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like. But then, some folks, I want to be just like my folks. How do you know what to get from your folks? No, right? Our folks aren't perfect. How do you know what to take from them within your own life? Like, what was good, what was bad, and sorting through that. I think Kylo didn't have that radar, right? And
he didn't have that upbringing. Yeah.
And so from us, I think we have that benefit. Certainly, majority of people on our planet, that I can watch, I can view, I can understand and learn how to be social, be a contributor in society, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, Johnny didn't have that. And all these Jedi, man, they all get whacked in the head because they're ripped from their families. It doesn't make sense to me.
I get that I have to be a good guy, but can't I see my mom?
Yeah, I miss missing dark side. That is. Are you kidding me? Like, their attachment. I got to see my mom.
I mean, that's my mom.
So there had to have been, for me, like, that's why I say when he was yelling and the laser cannons were killing Luke, or the hollow Luke, and he was yelling more, I just think it had to have been hurt for whatever did happen, more than he wasn't. It just didn't seem angry to me. I would love to hear Adam Driver talk about that scene and what
I don't think he ever will.
Oh, dude!
I think he left Star Wars in the rear view when the Reylo fans started threatening his wife.
Nah.
So he's never gonna. The Reylo fans did a number on him. Like, he needs a security detail.
Really?
Yeah. He got like stalked. Him and Daisy Ridley, but he got it worse.
Really?
Like, people were threatening his family. Like, genuinely expecting him to form a relationship with Daisy Ridley if something happened to his family. It was bizarre. It was a very, very bizarre year after the Rise of Skywalker came out.
I did not even know that.
Yeah. But kind of back to your point about family and that legacy there, and talking about Kylo Ren not having his parents around all the time. You think about who told him stories about his parents. Luke Skywalker, other influence in his life. So he's hearing these stories, and when you pass on stories, you exaggerate, you build up or tear down. If you don't want him to be like his grandfather, you say horrible things about the grandfather. So he's having that pressure of not being one person and being another person, and then not knowing his parents as well. Maybe I know my brother's adopted. When he turned 18, he left home. He knew about where his birth parents were, and he just needed to see them. And that was, and it was a wild 2 months. We didn't know where he was. He just needed to see them. He didn't even meet them. He just needed to see them and get back. And then he could go on with his life. And I think that's a driving force in a lot of these characters that you're talking about, is knowing they have all these people telling them who they are or who they're destined to be, or the Force, chose you, or, whatever, but they need to know who they are and where they're from. And Kylo got different versions of where he came from.
So
That's a great point.
can I pose a question to the two
Please.
of you? Episode 7, as we know, was kind of a remake of A New Hope, for lack of a better term. Hit the nostalgia points. Everybody, when they saw it for the first time, was just happy to have Star Wars back. And then you kind of look back on it, and it's like, wasn't terrible, but wasn't great either. Would Episode 7 have been better served for the fans if they just covered all the stuff we're talking about, and you had Kylo and Luke, and it shows that Obi-Wan Padawan relationship, and then you see how everything unfolds, and then you see Kylo turn, and you see Snoke recruit him, and then that kicks off the sequel trilogy? Would that have been a better Episode 7? Because I think that would have been a better Episode 7.
I think in terms of the franchise, they had to do what they did for Episode 7. They had to bring back the people that they lost with the prequels. But I think in terms of character development and understanding, absolutely 100%.
But then you can tease that and make what was Episode 7, Episode 8, and introduce Rey. And you can even bring in Leia and Han, because they're his parents. You could have had that dynamic in that hypothetical Episode 7, and you would have had Luke, and you would have had what the fans wanted all along. You would have Leia, Han, and Luke on the same screen, which we never got.
I think it comes down to quick buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the last thing here I want to talk about with him is the belief piece. So the theme of redemption and whatnot, the Skywalker family and all of this. Luke believed in his father. There's still good in him, and I love how Ambrose said, "Yeah, he killed a bunch of kids, but there's a little drop of good left in him." But the point is, above and beyond that, Luke believed. Luke was the only one that believed. Nobody else. And Luke had only known him for like 10 minutes. How do you know?
Yeah, Leia was like, dude, he literally blew my dad up.
Dude, well, she had the look of disgust, and Carrie Fisher did that perfect. When he says, "You're my," she's like, I know. Oh, what? Vader's my father? Like, you can see it. Like, gross. Go away. Run away. And the whiner Luke became the hero in that moment. And so we keep that down the line, and now here we have father son, the only one that believed in the son wasn't Leia. I don't know anyone even liked Leia. She didn't believe in nobody. Han, I saw our son. That's what he says. I saw Ben. That's not what she says. Oh, he's a turd now. And even face to face in the end for Han, which can be some fan theory out there about what actually happened. Did he pull the saber to him? Was it just ignited and killed him? Did he know this was going to happen? So many things. But we're not here to talk about that. What we're here to talk about is he still believed even in that moment. Looking at his son, he still loved him. It didn't matter. So
you can kind of tell in that moment that Kylo is kind of struggling. I don't think he's faking it.
Yeah.
When Han's approaching him, I don't think he initially wants to kill him. I think he is genuinely struggling, and then the dark side overtakes him, and then you got Han kebab. So yeah, what were you gonna say?
So the next bit at the in the last movie, him and his father having the manifestation of his father. What I found so interesting in that whole final scene, and don't tell anybody, I'm going to tell the world, like, I was getting misty-eyed for the first time ever in that scene. And I think it's just because I've been watching this. I've been looking at Kylo from many angles, and maybe Adam Driver's just, he does it for me too. Maybe I don't know.
He's a good actor.
He had me when he stopped fighting, when Leia had reached to him in the Force. He was Ben. He heard his mother. It wasn't. Are you telling me that's the only time she ever tried to call for him? No way. No way. But he heard her in that moment, because in that moment, there was not the dark blockage to prevent him from hearing her. And in that moment, even before Han appeared to him, I believe he was already Ben Solo again.
Yeah. See,
his dad in the manifestation believed in him, which means that he knew through it all his father never stopped loving him.
I mean, my whole problem with that last movie was that this guy is supposed to be, the be all and end all of the Force, and Rey is also supposed to be the be all and end all of the Force. So, like, what's with the treasure hunt? Why don't you just?
I know.
Why don't you just use the Force? Like, you turned it into like an Uncharted movie. That was more of an Uncharted movie than Uncharted was.
Yeah. Well, and then now we have Ahsoka where there's a map and we have to. Come on, guys.
I kind of give that a little bit of leeway because that's at least going to a different galaxy.
This is true.
Like, okay, this is something we don't know about.
And we saw it happen.
Yeah.
Right? We saw him leave as opposed to Exegol. Woo.
Yeah. So I kind of give that a little bit of leeway, but and also, like, Ahsoka never really finished her training, so I don't think she has tracking skills.
True.
But like Rilo and Rey, it's like just and you're sitting there and you're like just come on. We didn't come here for just use the Force. Use the Force.
Like, you should be able to do. This is what you do. Like, this is the whole point. Reach out.
And who's the jerk that left the artifacts around? Why couldn't he just be like, "Oh yeah, here you go"? Why have to be burying everything?
I don't. You're gonna. What is the point of Luke? Did Luke raise? Yeah, Luke raised as a Force ghost. Raised his X-wing. I'm trying to think, and I could be wrong. Someone correct me, but had that ever happened before, that a Force ghost would physically interact, aside from old man Obi-Wan sitting on a log?
I want to say that in Clone Wars, when Yoda was finally communicating with Qui-Gon was shaking furniture and stuff to get his attention.
That's right. Because
he couldn't fully turn into a Force ghost. So I want to say yes, that has happened before.
Very cool. Yeah, I think watching that this evening was like, I don't know, I didn't like it. Didn't like it. Anyways, thank you all for the deep dive discussion. That was a deep one on old Kylo Ren, the poor dude. My son Zane, I thought he was going to be playing Overwatch tonight, but he's rehearsing for a gig on Friday. So go make that money. Don't represent your school. I mean, when it conflicts, go make the money. Good boy. So stay, but tune in for, what is it? MCU Monday? No, not MCU Monday.
Next show Cantina Happy Hour on Thursday.
Yes, where the dark side version of Zane, Darth Zane, aka David Fur, your host. That was so funny. But yeah, so yeah, thank you guys. We're gonna kind of kick off to. I got a video. If you guys didn't see this, I was at College Station Comic-Con this weekend, and I met some fantastic people, man. This was my very first Comic-Con in my entire life, and it was probably one of the most smallest Comic-Cons on the planet. But it was fun, and I got to meet like a semi kind of hero of mine from games and whatnot, Kari Walgren. So I was real happy about that.
Nice.
Yeah, and she was like, "May the Force be with you," just like she did in KOTOR. I was like, "Oh my God, you're amazing." But she didn't have like the Jedi KOTOR Jedi signing whatever, so picture. So I ended up with Tigress. So It's okay.
My
okay.
my wife's friend, she creates signs and sells them at cons. And the guy that plays, what's his name? The guy that plays Bortus, she did one for the Orville, and the guy that plays Bortus was at the con,
Oh,
and she gave him the sign because she knew who he was, and she was like, "I'll give you the sign if you take a picture with me." And then they traded because he does art and sells art for charities. So she gave
nice.
him one of his paintings, and she gave him a sign. He gave her one of his paintings, and it was like that's why cons are so much fun.
Oh,
You know, because like the good, that's where you know who the good ones are, and who the good the people that really love the fans. That's where you know.
yeah. I can't remember the dude's name. Courage, Cowardly Dog. He was there. And every time I'd come around to like go talk to him, hey, you think you might could say something for a show, whatever. Because he would just come back from the table, just start talking like Courage, and like people were losing it, and they're coming over, and he's losing his mind. But yeah, you're right. And Quentin, I can't remember his name, the God, voice God. He was there. My stepson got an autograph from Kingdom Hearts 2 that he helped voice. So that was like
Nice.
PS2 or so. Yeah, he got him to autograph. That was cool, man. But we had a great time. I'm gonna play this. This is only the kind of short video from the first day, but it'll be fun. Got some really cool shots of some folks. And let's see if I can make this work. David Fur taught me how to do this. Hold on. Here we go. Oh,
way to break that glass ceiling, Barbie. You made it to con life.
I'm impressed with College Station. That's a great turnout.
Hey, you said it's a small con. It looks like those people went all out.
The people that went out. That was cool. We had I can't remember, Cosplay Meg. She's a online cosplayer. I've seen her before. She came out as is it Miranda from N7? What is it? I can't think. The video game, Mass Effect.
Oh, Mass Effect.
Yeah. So she came out from Mass Effect on the second day, and we don't have that compiled yet, but we do have those photos. They're really cool. So nice. Yeah, I had a great time. Like I said, I got to watch a couple of panels. One of the panels I watched was Kari Walgren's panel, and she was kind of talking about how, for her, for us, right, we get to maybe cover something, writing something, getting that interview, that's real special or whatnot. And for her, the latest was being able to voice Melina and Katana in Mortal Kombat, because she's our age. Like, she grew up with Mortal Kombat, and all of that, and being able to voice one of those characters is really cool. So I think, to your point, John, the ones that come to these smaller cons, much more engaged, much more entertaining. And I mean, not saying someone else didn't show. Like, we thought John St. Austin was, I think he canceled on us. I was looking forward to that, getting an autograph, but no, Austin St. John. I'm not saying St. Austin.
I said John St. Austin.
He's like, well, that's fine. That's why I didn't come. You don't even know my name.
I mean, and there's something to it. Like, I covered, at this point almost 2 years ago now, Galacticon in Howard County, Maryland. And there's something wholesome about doing a con that small. Like, the biggest name was, I think, Ken Hunt, the longtime artist for DC and Marvel. Mm-hmm. And I got some words from him for an article. But there's something about, no one takes it too seriously. A lot of the fans, they put on their costumes. They're not the best costumes, but they're trying, and they're having fun, and you get to see everybody. And it was kind of like the old-fashioned what conventions used to be, where it's kind of like a swap meet.
Yeah.
and it was just really, like I said, I'd love to go to a big con, but something like that, I find it to be enjoyable. You see a lot of the real fans that can't afford San Diego, but they still get to go to their place and they get to have fun and buy things they want to buy and
be with like-minded people, and yeah.
So I would take their photos and say, I'm crazy. Here's my card, whatever. I'm writer for Geek News Now. It's podcast, blah blah. And on the second day, I'd gone up to this girl. I was like, "Oh, let me get your picture. Here's my card. I'm not a creeper. My name's Dan Martin. Blah blah." She's like, "Oh, I know you. You took my picture yesterday."
Oh,
I did.
Oh no.
She goes, "Well, I was whatever character I was yesterday, and today." And I'm like, "Oh, sneaky. You get a sticker." So there were a couple of those actually on day 2, and it was funny. My wife was like, "Rick, you don't know you." Well, I didn't know they're dressed differently. Lots of fun though, man. Like the Samus was, oh god, so
that
well
Samus
done.
looked awesome.
And she's like, "Yeah, it didn't cost, but like $100, whatever. Like for the phone, like she made it all herself. It looks incredible." I didn't get a chance to talk to. I did actually. I have an interview with Samus Girl that I'll put up on my TikTok later. Because she kind of went through what she did, how she made it, and stuff like that. I think that stuff's freaking interesting. Like you said, John, when you have just people excited to have an opportunity to cosplay, and I think College Station really isn't a hub for cosplay. So us having that, and we do have AggieCon coming up in February, the 53rd AggieCon, I believe. Oh, hold on, it's right here. There you go. AggieCon 53. There's your QR code. AggieCon 53. I told you, AggieCon, I would talk about you on my show. We had a good conversation with them too. And I think covering the con was the best way to experience my first con. So on day 1, all I was busy, right? But day 2, you're taking your time. You're walking through because you've got all the content for the first day, right? Have you been to a Comic-Con before, Cynthia?
I've been to one. It was in Northern California, and it was back, early 2000s. And Northern California is the place to have a Comic-Con, and it was incredible. Talk about how much people spend on costumes. It was insane back then. I can only imagine what people are spending now. But my favorite were the ones that were homemade, that people made themselves, because honestly, it shows kind of the love that they have for that character. So yeah, no, it's been years, but yeah, I don't even think that one exists anymore.
And the groups that have come from there, like there's this Mendo group that I'll talk about in my my piece I'm writing on it. That you have it's like 501st. You have specific guidelines but you can do whatever within the framework of those guidelines and make it yours. And I think from a Mandalorian perspective, there's so many more options than maybe a 501st, just my opinion. So I was real interested to talk to those guys. I might be checking out some stuff those guys do. But you said, John, you were at one that was just a couple years ago now.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Awesome Con, which is the Washington D.C. Comic-Con, but as everyone in the writers' room knows, I blew my knee out and wasn't able to attend. But I do have an open invitation for a press pass next year, so
fantastic.
Hopefully, I'll stay healthy, and the other knee will stay okay, and will be able to get me out there this year. I was really upset though because I had Billy D. Williams was appearing there. I really wanted to get a bottle of Colt 45 autograph. I was like, I'm totally gonna do this. I'm totally gonna go in there with a 40 or a can of Colt 45, and I'm gonna get Billy D. Williams to sign it because I remember those commercials, and they're some of my favorite commercials.
Absolutely, there wasn't anyone smoother.
Rule number 1: when you're having a lady friend over, never forget your Colt 45. Rule number 2: don't you ever forget about rule number 1. Colt 45 works every time.
He was so cool, man. Like when you first get introduced to Lando, like, well, what do we have here?
It was.
My name's Lando Calrissian. I'm the administrator of this facility.
It was heartbreaking when he turned. I was devastated. It was like he turned on me. I was.
And he's totally just like drinking Han's Kool-Aid with Leia.
Oh
He's
yeah.
just like, oh, why don't I give you a tour of the facilities, young lady?
I need to back up. I had a special crawler I was going to do for Shield Maiden's Creations, Miss Cat or AV, when I played her video that she made, and I didn't. So I'm taking every moment of silence. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that, Cat. So speaking of Cat, there is going to be a TikTok talking about KAT. When I talk about KAT, I'm not talking about Cat show GNN Cat. Okay, remember that, Jack. It's a fact. Okay, I gotta stop. So
Army training.
oh my god. Okay, that's one I'll have to dial up here in a bit. The last thing that I wanted to leave with for tonight was something I think we all have struggled with in one point in our lives, and it's our past, right? Our past will always catch up to us in some form or fashion or way. Whether you bury it down deep, it'll eat you from the inside. Whether you show it to the world, then you look dirty from the outside. And the problem is we all have that, right? That no one is blemish free. And so what I think is huge in the Kylo Ren story, I won't die on this hill. This is just where I'm at today. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. I believe that while that did not get spoken in the last movie, that is exactly what happened, but not in the way that Kylo thought it would. And I say that in a manner of looking at your own space, right? And whatever is happening or whatever has happened, is that good or is that bad? Is this past something bad or good? And there's really no way to absolutely 100% know until you look back and say, oh, that's what that meant. So whatever has happened in the past, certainly we can learn from it, but it shouldn't drive our entirety of where we're going directionally. So all I think we need to do in a lot of these cases, I'm getting a little nervous because it's a tough thing for me to even say, is letting the past go does not mean you're not learning from it. It just means you're not letting it be powerful over you. So you in the moment now have to be powerful over you and not let whatever that past thing that's tearing you up take over. And once Kylo was able to let go of that, man, he was bent. And actually, I don't care. I will die on this hill. This move with the saber, that was badass.
How did he not like take out his whole spine?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I'm dying, you moron.
Oh my goodness. What do we have going on this week around the GNN world that I don't know about to talk about, Ambrose?
Geek News Gauntlet is always on Saturdays at 10 p.m. You get to see William and the gang. Of course, we have Cantina Happy Hour. Dave and Debbie talk Star Wars. They'll be talking about Ahsoka Season 5, which airs tonight. So if you want to join Dave and Debbie and sometimes Cam, I'm pretty sure Cam will be on this week, catch Ahsoka tonight and tune in with them. I'll be talking about Ahsoka Season 5, cross-promoting with Scarif Podcasts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know. It's on Saturday, so I'll figure it out.
The Scarif.
We'll be, right. This is on Scarif. I'll be discussing that with them. So that's kind of like earlier on Saturday than the Gauntlet. So you can watch my smiling face, and then you can tune in and see William and the gang. And I'm working on a piece right now about Warner Brothers has apparently hired the first artificial intelligence pop star.
I saw that.
So I played Detroit Become Human, and that was really in the video game. So I'm kind of interested in this, and I'm doing research on it, and hopefully I'll have an article in the next couple of days about it.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Ambrose.
No problem.
How about you,
funny.
Cynthia?
Ahsoka is on downstairs. My boys are watching it right now, the newest episode. So
Disney didn't ask
for me, I'm live usually probably almost every morning at 5:30 on TikTok. But other than that, yep, just hunkering down.
So I'll get up at 6:30, whatever. Take the dogs out, pull up my phone, and I got a notification that Cynthia's live at 5. Well, I already missed it. What am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm to do.
What are things like time? I'm still in the phase where I have a 3-year-old. So time is pretty much like, Dad, I'm up. Like it's like Gilbert Gottfried got reincarnated as a 3-year-old.
Okay, like, I'm on the other side of that. I have a 22-year-old that calls me at 2 a.m, like every night, and says, why didn't you answer? It's like I'm being woken up again, like every night. Like, so it doesn't end. It doesn't end. But
that is my cheek.
She'll be like, and then like she will go downstairs. And I love my daughter because she'll be like, now, Dad, I want you to get it right this time. I want eggs. I want yogurt. I want a cheese stick, and I want. I'm like, can we get a please? A please would be nice. like
yes, and your total is
tiny terrorist. Like, I swear to God, I like when she moves out, I'm gonna ask for a house key, and on one random day when she's in her 20s, I'm gonna wait for her first hangover, and it might even be in the house. I want to wait for like the kid's first hangover, and I'm just gonna swing the door over and be like, "Get up! It's time to watch Paw Patrol. It's time to make breakfast. It's time
and get it right.
I want to watch Blaze."
Oh my God. All right. What time is it? Oh, we are at time. My cheeks hurt. I can't go anymore.
It's been a great time.
Thank you all,
by the way.
You two made this so fun tonight. 10th episode. It was a blast. We went all over the place, but we kept it focused on Mr. Ren or Mr. Solo, Ben Solo. So yeah, keep your eyes up.
One more point. I'm sorry. I thought of this earlier. I don't mean to cut you off. Do you think he was named Ben now that we've watched Obi-Wan? Do you think Leia named him Ben after Ben Kenobi?
100%. And there's so much that I get twisted over because I felt the expanded universe story of all of that was way better. And that's another show. But yeah, I think now that we've seen this is, I think to your point earlier, right? Like we see now, we understand, and potentially now we get why he's called Ben, right?
Yeah.
They didn't fill us in on this other crap. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to the first of the show.
And that was the problem I had with Rogue One. I really liked Rogue One, but it was like, I don't know anything about these characters, so I don't care. But now that they made Andor, it kind of retroactively makes Rogue One
more enjoyable.
It goes from all right to like actually good now that you have Andor.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Okay. Yeah, we got to bail. So
I'm sorry, man.
Dude, whatever. That way, when William's trying to get whatever to upload to the podcast world, the audio world, he's like, "Oh, you're not done yet." No, William, we're not. Thank you, William. Thank you all, though. Seriously, this was really fun. I'd love to have both of you back at some point. But next week, we are not going to be talking about anything because when I said I was going to be gone 2 weeks ago, all that's finally happening. So I will not be on Sit Dominion on Tuesday of next week. However, I will be broadcasting live from a special place on TikTok a couple of times next week, and it'll be super fun. And yeah, I'll give you a hint. What up, dude? All right, we'll catch all you guys in 2 weeks. And remember, kids, peace is a lie. Oh, wait. like, and subscribe. I don't want the AV people to get mad at me again. Now, remember, kids, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Good night. Oh, that's the intro. Here we go.